Hello, everybody. Thanks, Anna, for the great introduction. It's my honor to be with you guys today and introduce our next speaker. He's someone that I've gotten to know quite a bit over the last couple of months, and I must say that he is a great man. I served on a panel with Mr. John Hope Bryant back in February, where we were talking about different economic issues related to financial empowerment and community development. And after our panel discussion, he said, "Hey, man, I'm going to invite you to come down to my global forum in Atlanta, and I want you to lead a session." And I thought he was just talking. So the next day, and the next day was a Saturday, he sent me an email at about 5 in the morning connecting me to all of his people. And needless to say, I ended up in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago where he had brought together 4,000 people from across the world that were all coming together to talk about how we can address poverty in the broadest context. How can we support the people that we want to thrive in these cities that we're here to talk about today? So we're excited to have him as a part of this discussion. You can read his bio. I'm not going to go through all of those things, but I will just say that this man is very dedicated to the work of improving the lives of people across this country, and you'll hear and feel his passion as he talks, and I will invite him to come up now. Please welcome Mr. John Hope Bryant.
Hello, everybody. So I want to thank Paul, who part of my job is spotting talent wherever I go, and I'm an entrepreneur essentially. That's if I had to have one title, that would be it. I'm an entrepreneur, and part of my job as an entrepreneur is to spot talent, and because we're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and energy matters. And Paul is talent. This city is really, and region is lucky to have a guy like that. I meet a lot of people and I'm impressed. I'm underwhelmed all too often. Underwhelmed. And Paul was quietly overwhelming. You also are blessed to have, I just met him briefly yesterday, I believe he's your chairman, Archie. Archie doesn't walk on water, but he knows where the stones are. I don't know where Archie is. There he is. Good man. Archie, not everybody's going to understand you, but that's okay. Eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles. I met Reed and yesterday, who's I think from the city, and a couple of the ladies yesterday I met last night who were helping to organize this, and Martha this morning. Just really a great team of people. Honored to be here. I met with your mayor here in Memphis yesterday, who's doing, I think, a really outstanding job, and Bryant Jordan, who's the CEO of First Tennessee Bank, who's on my board. And so I'm not just talking the talk. We're going to walk the walk. This is not just about being a PhD, but being a PhD too. And so I'm going to talk a bit about what I'm interested in, and then you'll be seeing some of this work operationalized in your whole region. Let me back up and frame this a bit. Number one, you're sitting in a moment in history. But history never feels historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. A modern prophet by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was on this earth for 13 years in this movement that ended and culminated in Memphis. But every day wasn't I have a dream speech. In fact, it was mostly boring staff meetings, conferences like this where you're waiting for a guy like me to get off the stage. A child saying, "Mommy, who's that guy up on stage? What time are we going home?" Traveling, airports. He gave a have a dream speech 100 times before the March on Washington. 100 times. Most of it not very memorable. So when I say we're living in a moment in history, and I'm saying that this moment is historic and you don't feel it, doesn't mean much. It takes 25 years to look back at a moment and say that was historic. You have a chance to change the world. Now you may say, well, what does he mean? I'm in Tennessee, or I'm in Arkansas, or I'm I'm in Alabama. Why is he saying that to me? Well, this part of the country, first of all, America is the largest economy in the world. Don't believe the pundits. Actually, the majority of Americans actually believe China's economy is larger than ours, and that's really sad. That's really sad that educated people get so beat up on their own storyline, they actually believe that China's economy is larger than ours when you can take China's economy, Japan's economy, take Russia's economy, Mexico's economy, and a few others, put them inside the U.S. economy and still have room. And our economy is not government aided in that way. That's actually not, the Chinese economy actually is not really a real economy in that free market sense. So it's really an extraordinary model, almost $20 trillion of GDP here in the US. We're only 350 million people. Let's give it some context. 7 billion people in the world and growing. On our way to 9 billion. 7 billion people in the world. 350 million people in America. 150 million of them, give or take, have the capacity to work. 26 million companies in America. Of those 26 million companies, 6 million employ one person or more. Of the 6 million that employ one person or more, only 964 of them employ 10,000 people or more. That's it. That's the whole ball game. And 70% of all of jobs in America are 500 employees or less. And half of all jobs in America are even, in other words, most of Americans work for a company with 100 employees or less. That's what I'm really trying to get to. And out of the 6 million, employers that I mentioned that employ one person or more, 4.8 million of them employ less than 4 people. So that's where jobs are coming from. Entrepreneurs, startups, shoot-ups in years 3 through year 7. And all that's driving the largest economy on the planet with 350 million people out of 7 billion. And where did America start? Did America start on the West Coast? Really is our story? No, America started right here. We don't have time to get into this. If you want me to go into Q&A, I'm happy to do that. I'd be happy to tell you why you should be actually concerned about places like Haiti. It's not for the reasons that you think. It's not for humanitarian reasons and none of that stuff. Without Haiti, it wouldn't be in the United States. I hope I'm frying somebody's brain because that's part of my job up here is to help you understand that things are not necessarily the way you think. So in the Q&A, if you want me to talk about that, I mean, by the way, what I just said was an economic truth, not a philosophical truth. Without Haiti, there would not be a United States. That is an economic link. I can come back to that in the future. But I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about that the American story as we know it really started in this whole region, and including the Louisiana Purchase, which is part of this region. And that American story started with a bowl. Probably my next book's going to probably be American Exceptionalism. So we talk about immigrants like they're some Martians. Everybody in here, unless you're Native American, is a descendant of an immigrant. So my European brothers and sisters, this is very important. And by the way, just so you make sure you understand this is not about race, I'm white too. I've done my DNA. I'm 51% Cameroon, which is African, 26% European, white. The rest is Asian, Indian, and other. So if I hate white people, I hate myself. If I hate black people, I hate myself. If I hate Latinos, I hate myself. 99.9% and change of all human DNA is precisely the same. Precisely. And we argue over 1/4 of 1% that governs eye color, skin color, hair, complexion, pigmentation of your skin, which has nothing to do with anything other than where the sun was for thousands of years. That's it. Why are black people dark? Because Africa's hot. Why do black people have kinky hair? Because God is amazing and made that hair kinky so that it absorbed the heat rays before it landed on the softest part of your body, which is over your brain. If your brain cooks, you're done. Why is African noses wide? To cool the air before it goes into your lungs as a natural air conditioner. Why are Africans pigmentation of their skin the way it is? So you can absorb heat rays. Real black folks don't get skin cancer because we're used to that weather. Why are Africans' lips so juicy? I don't know, but everybody wants them. I'm breaking up stereotypes first. I'm breaking up these myths first. Then we're going to get to some details. Are we okay so far? Why are my European friends' skin so beautifully so-called white? By the way, most white people's skin are not white. It's more like olive. But why is it so white? Because you were oriented to cold weather. And let's talk about the most interesting example of that, which is Norway, and where I go travel a couple times a year, the Nordic region. That skin is absorbing, in some cases, sub-zero weather over thousands of years. Why is my Caucasian friend's nose narrow? To heat the air before it goes into your lungs. Why is your hair long, ladies? It covers your ears, because if your ears get cold, you're done. And it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. We all oriented to where we were. And by the way, if you go from Southern Africa and you go north from Southern Africa, and by the way, Africa is not a country, it's a continent. If you go from Southern Africa, which is, by the way, where we're all from, you go from Southern Africa up to Northern Africa, you start to get lighter. Why? Because the sun is less direct. And you get to that pot of little land called the Mediterranean, the water. You jump over that water from what they call the Middle East, and you go to where? Where are we at now? We're in the Mediterranean. Where's that? Help me out. Southern France and southern Italy and Spain. It's an olive-colored skin because it's still enough sun to make you darker, but it's not direct. And the curls of the hair are looser curls. Think about my Italian friends now. So that's that kinky hair loosening up over thousands of years because you don't need that tightness in Italy. I joke that my European friends, my Italian friends are the closest to brothers because those are the guys always pinching the rear end of a woman. That's a brother for you who's Italian. And then you get into Central Europe and you get into Northern Europe. So what's my point here? If you look at Northern Europe and Africa, you look at North America and South America, take the water out of it now. Go home and do a geo lesson with your children. What happens when you remove the water from the middle of it? I'm from the black church. I'm used to seek and respond. I'm actually talking to you. What happens when you remove the water? It clicks. Because we were once all one. We're the ones who separated us from us. We're the ones that start having these ridiculous conversations that matter not to anybody. We argue over stupid stuff versus the things that really matter. Like, why should you be talking about whether this city or that city has an advantage? Or this state or that state has an advantage? When you're all in this thing together. You literally are regionally connected. And the region is connected, of course, to the health of the nation. You can take no pleasure from the fact there's a hole in my end of our boat. Am I going too fast? Am I going too fast? You can take no pleasure from the fact that there's a hole of my end of our boat. We're all in this together. If I sink, you sink. So why did I mention the immigrant story? Because my European friends are not just European, they're type A. Not everybody from France came to America. Not everybody from Poland came to America. Not everybody from Germany. Pick the state, pick the country, doesn't matter. But not all of them came from America. Those with high aspirations, type A personalities who said by hook or crook, plane, train, automobile, boat, I'm going to live the dream for my family. I got to get out of this repressive place where back then you're getting your great-great-granddaddy, your great-grandmother. Can I get a name, man? Somebody know your history in here? Can somebody here to talk about? I mean, we all have manicured nails, but 3 generations ago, your grandfather had dirt under their nails. And they left the repressive place and came to Ellis Island and said, I'm going to live the American dream with $2 in their pocket and set my family free. Now, either you are criminally insane and crazy, or you have high self-esteem, confidence, belief, vision. You know how much chutzpah it takes to come 6,000 miles away with no plan and $2 in your pocket to America with no idea what's going to happen next and say, I'm going to live the American dream? That is the American exceptionalism. Is you have a collection of these people from all over the planet who came here, went to Ellis Island and said, I am going to do this. And you are the descendants of that energy. That's why America is thriving with economic pulse. And we're the largest economy on the planet, and everybody wants what we've got, that magic sauce, freedom. Now, so when we're talking about economics, you can't talk about economics without talking about the philosophy. You cannot talk about the house without talking about the framework. The framework started with some plans. The plan started with a vision. What does the Bible say? Where there is no vision, the people perish. This is not one conversation. It's the same conversation, but if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you are, you certainly don't know where you're going. You can't start with tactics. You got to go to vision, strategy, mission, purpose, plan, then tactics, to-dos, to-dones, assessment, evaluation, reassessment, reimagination, reset, and back up. That's called a software upgrade, and back to vision. That's where I live my life every day. So the first thing I want to tell you is that the first part of this bowl is everybody who got here voluntarily as an immigrant. American exceptionalism. That's our gift. That's our magic sauce. What do you think Walmart came from? Was it always a huge company? Or was it Sam Walton my man knows what I'm talking about, Sam Walton with a pickup truck, a storefront, a high school education, and a vision? Everybody said, this guy's nuts. But now it's the largest retailer in the world. UPS. We have FedEx here too. The founder's still with us. UPS was Jim Casey with $100 and a bicycle. 100 years ago, he was in partner with another guy named Henry Ford, who was one of 109 automobile manufacturers back then, but he was smart enough to pay his workers enough to buy the automobiles he was making. Vision, and his company took off, and when you connected automobiles with messenger service, that became the logistics business, which is now literally, UPS is the 10th largest airline in the world and one of the 20 largest employers with 400,000 employees. But 400,000 employees started with one. Coca-Cola was a pharmacist who died, by the way, using his own product. Goldman Sachs was a guy named Goldman and a guy named Sachs. Literally walking door to door selling financial services nobody wanted in early 1901. Are you with me so far? I'm trying to get you to understand how critically important what it is you're doing, but we've got to rethink this in different ways. Are my slides with me, by the way? They are. So I'm going to get me turn to that in a moment. When I get to 10 minutes before I got to do Q&A, raise your hand and shut me down, all right? All right, my new friend over here. Okay. So my mom always said, be good, be quick, and then be gone. Y'all ain't going to kick me out. I'm going to leave. So what's the other end of that bowl? And this goes to why you have challenges with your development work. I'm going to use one group of people because it's such an obvious example. This is the opposite of an immigrant. Black folks got on the wrong boat. Some of you will get that later. So you've been told there's no under 18 children in here, right? No children. Okay, I'm going to use really blunt language, if that's okay. You've been told you ain't shit for 300 years. Think about it. Put my slide up, please. I'm going to tell you why your job's so difficult and what we're going to do about it. Next one. Oh, thank you. That was meant for me to do it.
That's okay.
Right.
I can do it
So,
from here.
so the next one, I'm the next one. And this lady she's fantastic. Thank you, Anna. All right. Whatever you've been told about poverty is wrong. Whatever you've been told about poverty is absolutely incorrect. It has nothing to do with money. Zero. Okay, here's poverty. Low self-esteem and low confidence. Why is that important? What does it relate to what I just said to you? Okay, let's check this out. You've been told for 300 years, you, your grandmother, your grandfather, your granddaddy, your great-granddaddy, your great-great-granddaddy, you ain't S-H-I-T. You ain't nothing. In fact, you're property. You're less than dirt. And I'm not going to give you any education, and I'm not going to give you any opportunity. And then you had 100 years of Jim Crow after that ended in 1970, not 1870, meaning within our lifetime. What happens to your self-esteem and your confidence in 350 years of being told you aren't valuable? It dumps. Now, when I was speaking in Birmingham, Alabama at the Rotary Club, I started mentioning this, and I started seeing people do like this, like getting a little defensive. I said, well, just relax. Let me ask you a question. If you were told you weren't crap for half this time that I'm talking about, half this time, you'd be crazy too. And they actually had to acknowledge it. Let me pick on somebody here. We've never talked before, right, sir? Great. You were growing up and you saw a man in a suit, maybe it's your father, I don't know. You saw a man in a suit, you saw a man who was a businessman or a professional and said, I can do that. Yes or no? Yes. You heard what he said? Yes. He's wearing a suit because he saw someone wear a suit. Have we ever met before, young lady? No. You saw a lady growing up and she was a professional, or maybe she was your mother, I don't know, maybe it's your sister, maybe it's somebody you never met before, but a lady who's a professional, an entrepreneur, business person, but some kind of profession, you saw her in the workplace and said, my God, if she can do that, I can do that. Yes or no? What's your name? Brittany. Have we already talked about Brittany? Have we already talked before? She said, yes, that's exactly right. Young lady in the beautiful blue and white dress here. Have we ever talked before? Okay. You saw somebody growing up who was a woman. She was in the profession. She was in the arts. She was doing something other than just raising children. And you said, my God, if she can do that, I can do that too. I can do everything. Yes or no? See how natural this is? This is not my technology or my science. This is common sense. You model what you see. So what's my point? If what you've seen for 350 years is crap, your self-esteem and your confidence is in the toilet. You know you can't do your job without confidence. Try to run your department without confidence. Try to run your city mayors without confidence. Let me make this very simple. Try to raise your children without confidence. They will run over you. You love your kids. Can we have a real conversation? You love your kids and they love you, but they will absolutely run over you if you're not the alpha. Let me make this real basic. Your dog. Your dog, you love your dog. You selected that dog, you feed that dog, you take care of that dog, you put feed. That dog will absolutely pee on everything you got, bite up everything you got, and will challenge you every day until that dog realizes who's the boss. Why is life any different? Who's the alpha? So you've got to exert confidence, which is your intelligence externally generated wherever you go, which is different from self-esteem, by the way. Confidence is how I communicate my intellect externally. Self-esteem is how I communicate my wealth internally. By the way, the most dangerous person in the world is a person with no hope. The second most dangerous person in the world, a person with competence, power, low self-esteem, and fear. I'm going to repeat that. Now you get your own visual in your head. I didn't name a name. So here we go. I got to speed this up. Low self-esteem and low confidence. Crappy role models, what does that mean? If all I see in my neighborhood is symbols of success are rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers, because everybody's aspirational, everybody wants to be successful, even a welfare mother wants her child to be hardworking, tax-paying, and responsible, if for no other reason than to feel proud of them. You cannot give what you do not have. In a blind town, a one-eyed man's king. If you don't know better, you cannot do better. It's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. It's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, ooh, let me be a prostitute. She's trying to make money. She's role modeling what she sees. So if all you see in your neighborhood is symbols of success of rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers, nobody should be surprised that kids grow up in these neighborhoods wanting to be rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers. It makes common sense. You're modeling what you see. If all you see in your neighborhood is, and this is very environment. Environment basically means if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. I'm gonna say that once again really slowly because this is like really important. If you hang around 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th. Whatever you hang around, you will be. The state of Mississippi has 2% of people who make $200,000 a year or more. Doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, business people. So then how do you model doctors, lawyers, business people if you don't see doctors, lawyers, professions, and business people? So you model what you see. By the way, the most unbanked state in America, Mississippi. Poorest state in America, Mississippi. The lowest credit score state in America, Mississippi. Most uninformed electorate about the structure of their economy is probably Mississippi because they're railing against the federal government when a third of every dollar coming to Mississippi is a federal dollar. Am I going too fast? No. Low self-esteem and low confidence. Crappy role models and crappy environment, which means you don't have hope. Aspiration. Aspiration is a code word for hope. I've already told you the most dangerous person in the world is a person with no hope, which means you see the opportunity circle as half empty, not half full. When you have a glass of water, is it half empty or is it half full? Depends who's looking at the glass. And whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're absolutely right. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're absolutely right. So here's poverty, ladies and gentlemen. Crappy self-esteem and crappy confidence. Crappy role models in a crappy environment. No hope, so I see opportunity nowhere. I never leave my porch. What's the point? Next slide. Anna, I got it. Oh, she's on it. All right, here's wealth. High self-esteem and high confidence. Great role models, 2-parent families. You know, you go to the symphony once a quarter. Help me out here. You go to the museum once a month. Help me out here. You have dinner with each other at night. You guys don't have 2-parent families in your cities? Am I talking about something foreign to you? You go to a restaurant, I don't know, once a week for dinner? Vacations, you read to your kids, Community volunteering, engagement, talking about philosophy, history. I can take off on my kids' programs. Take off your kids' programs, lean in with them at PTA meeting. Help me out here. Church. You're volunteering. Theater, now we're talking. Theater, arts, culture. All this matters. This matters. High self-esteem, high confidence. Great role models, a great environment, which leads to high aspiration. I have hope, which means I see opportunity everywhere. And so people say gentrification, this is racism. No, it's not. It's capitalism. Because now I'm going to come right in your neighborhood. And I'm going to buy that tax default property that's been sitting there for 15 years. Don't get angry at me. You could have bought it. I'm going to buy it, rehab it, and rent it. I'm going to buy it, rehab it, and sell it. I'm going to buy it, rehab it, and flip it. But that's my investment, and don't get mad at me. That's why people come right in your neighborhood and sell you things to you that you should be selling yourself, because you are the former model of this, not the latter model of this. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with perspective. After you get over sustenance poverty, which is a roof over your head and food on your table and decent health care, which should be, by the way, sort of basic human rights of dignity, once you get beyond that, it's all attitude. So you have a bowl in America, ladies and gentlemen. You got this one side of this bowl that's almost presumed. I came here somebody came here as an immigrant years ago, but I mean, I got it. I got the right attitude. A friend of mine, there's a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is economic. Being poor is a disabling frame of mind, depressed condition of your spirit. You must vow never, ever, ever to be poor again. If I have inner capital, I'll never be poor. If I don't have inner capital, all the money in the world will not save me. So my friends would say, my European friends, I was poor. I had, we had water and we had potatoes. And I said, Joe, I recognize you had a rough life. You were broke. You weren't poor. No, I was poor. I'm tired of you not working. I'm tired. No, Joe, your blood pressure's going up. Just calm yourself. Joe, you were broke. Let me make sure I understand this properly. Your daddy came from Europe, came to Ellis Island and said, I'm going to live the American dream with $2 in your pocket. He told you could do anything you want to do. He worked in that farm who can't see in the morning and can't see at night. You role modeled him. You had a mother at home. You had 3 meals. They were slim, but you had 3 meals a day. You never questioned whether you could succeed. I knew I was going to do something. Exactly what I'm saying. That's different from the story I told you a minute ago of an alternate narrative. So here's the narrative. 1865, so Memphis was born around 1819, I believe, incorporated just after that. So it's part of this story of being the heart of a beat of America. And I'm going to pivot real quick to where we are today. You guys enjoying this okay? We're good? I think context really matters. So 1865, Abraham Lincoln, I think arguably the best president we ever had, right after the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, created a bank called the Freedmen's Bank. Its charter was to teach free slaves about money. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mike. I got 10 minutes. Teach free slaves about money. Now, let me make sure we understand this narrative right. He had all the tools of government in front of him. Could have given us welfare, could have given us reparations. He had all the tools available for him, right? So he sends his Secretary of War, Stanton, and General Sherman out to Savannah, Georgia, because Atlanta had been burned to the ground in the March to the Sea that broke the psychological confidence of the Confederates, not the enemy lines. That was the March to the Sea, for those historians in the audience, you know what I'm talking about. So they met in Savannah, Georgia, because that had been preserved, and they said, what do you want? To 20 ministers, black, former slaves. Did they say they want a welfare program? Now, forget they're black for the moment. This is just human energy. Do you want a welfare program? The only courageous guy I see here is this gentleman here. He's not even black. Tell me, what was the answer?
No.
Mr. Keith? Yeah. The answer's no. He's like, of course, the answer's no. Do you want reparations? No, you deserved it, but no. We want land. That's what they said. We want to do for ourselves. See how natural that is? We want to do for ourselves. So Field Action 15, don't trust me, search it. Field Action 15, done in the War Powers Act, because it was still an act of war during wartime, that allocated 400,000 acres from North Carolina all the way down the coast, 30 miles from the coast, all the way to what you call Miami, Florida. I'm doing this really fast. I only have a few minutes. Now we say beachfront property. That's fantastic. But not in 1865. Because that was an agrarian age, you made your money off the land. So you go to plant some crops on the beach and you wake up tomorrow morning and your crop's in Jamaica. But we didn't complain about it, we didn't argue about it, we took the land. So that was January 1865. No cell phone, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no nothing. The next month, 1,000 former slaves got the memo on the land, occupied the land, worked that land so hard, General Sherman said, my God, they're so industrious, give them a mule. Some of you know what I'm talking about. 40 acres and a mule. Now, I'm not talking about 1,000 years, 100 years, or 50 years apart. I'm talking about the next month. The next month, so that was February. Land, January. I'm trying to tell you how possible this is. Industry was equipment the next month, February. March, Abraham Lincoln sits down and signs legislation, Freedmen's Bureau Act, to create the Freedmen's Bank, put U.S. currency, put in God we trust on U.S. currency, March 3rd, of 1865 and chartered a bank to teach free slaves about money. 73,000 former slaves put every dime they had in this bank, $52 million, which would be $100 billion today. $100 billion bank, one of the top 20 banks in America today, without one more dime. Lincoln gets killed because he dared to say blacks should have the right to vote in 1865. He was killed by Booth the next month. The bank is lost to history. Who ran the bank? Frederick Douglass. What do you know Frederick Douglass to be? An abolitionist. Not true. He was a businessman. He owned $6 million worth of real estate in Baltimore, Maryland. Who did he rent to? Working class blacks. I love these stories. By the way, Dr. King, you know what his salary was? Zero. How got a man with a PhD in 1957 who's black? This is not a socialist country. You got to pay for a PhD. And how could you work for free? He was a middle class because his daddy made money. Where did his daddy work? His daddy was a banker. His daddy served on the board of a bank for 40 years. Daddy King was a banker and owned real estate. All that real estate around the King Center, Daddy King owned. You see how natural this story is? Frederick Douglass ran this bank, put $10,000 of his own money in the bank. The bank fails in 1874. You pop your fingers from 1874 to 1968, which was the first time anybody talked to at least black people about money in 100 years. And that was Dr. King in your city of Memphis, Tennessee, the city you're meeting at right now, in what was called the Poor People's Campaign, which is, by the way, about poor whites. There's more poor whites in America than poor anybody else then and now. So this is not about a minority issue, by the way. And he was about raising all people up, and then he was killed the same month as Lincoln, April, 103 years later. Here's my message. It's not like folks who are underserved that you care so much about got the memo on free enterprise, capitalism, ownership, and opportunity and screwed it up. They just never got the memo. That's my book outside. Here's what should give you hope. There's nothing I describe today. I'm going to bet my net worth. There's nothing I describe today that's in any of your planning books, any of your strategy books, any of your strategy sessions. This is not a philosophy or an approach that anybody in any organized setting has ever approached, because it's really crazy. What I'm saying today is actually nuts. It's counterintuitive completely, but it's completely common sense. And if you don't know how to solve, you don't know what the problem is, how do you solve it? So you're talking about community development, which you should. Real estate development, city development, economic development. Help me, what other kind of developments? Regional development, help me out here. But are you talking about human development? That's my topic. So I'm going to drop the mic and I won't drop your mic, you'll probably charge me for it, but I'm going to drop and do some Q&A. But let me sort of now bring this really into your living room. Somebody's not impressed yet with what I've said, which is I love a challenge. You like numbers. Let me give you numbers. I know what every region in every city that you serve and every region within that city and every zip code within your city, I know everything about it, and I've never been to your city. I want to bet my net worth. I can describe your most challenging problems in, 40 seconds. So let me give it a shot, because somebody's going to say, well, he's talking about urban America. No, I'm not. Here's where you have all of your problems. Here's what it looks like. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. We're not talking about race here. Close your eyes. In that neighborhood, you have a check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-a-home store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, and then down the street is a church trying to make it all a little bit better. Open your eyes. By the way, that neighborhood could be white rural, it could be black and brown urban, it does not matter. Here's the number, 500. It's a 500 credit score community. Why do I know that? Because 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot, they go shopping. There's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in all of America's history of any race. I'll bet my net worth on it, and I have a nice net worth. That's where your GDP comes from. That's where your higher education is. That's where your tax base comes from. That's where your sales tax comes from. That's where your economic energy is. That's where your small businesses are launching. That's where your entrepreneurships are launching. Am I hitting a nerve yet? That's where your Starbucks are going in. That's where your Whole Foods are going in. That's where your upper end retail chains are going in. That's where your big box retailers want to go. All right, your 500 credit score neighborhoods, that's where your homicides are. That's where your high school equivalency is at its lowest. That's where your gang problem is through the roof. By the way, all a drug dealer is an illegal, unethical entrepreneur. They're not dumb and they're not stupid. They just have a crappy business plan and no morals. Here's a drug dealer. He understands import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, logistics. All a gang organizer is a frustrated union organizer. You guys are a hard crowd. I'm like giving you everything I got. I'm dropping mics all over the place. You have a Steve Jobs in every one of your cities, and you think they're a problem. So before we start judging people, I want you to remember what NASCAR came from. Moonshine running. All those boys 100 years ago, 80 years ago, causing hell and havoc in your county that the sheriff was desperately trying to arrest, but couldn't because they couldn't catch them. Those illegal boys now have logos on the side of their cars called sponsored vehicles. Let's stop judging. A saint is a sinner that got up. We're all in this thing together, and everything evolves. Nothing is static, and nobody's perfect. So can we reimagine our economy? Can we reimagine our possibilities? Because what Operation Hope is doing is moving credit scores 120 points in 24 months, because nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. And my friend Brian Jordan at First Tennessee, and my friend Bill Rogers at SunTrust, I saw one of my, Dorothy from SunTrust is here, one of our partners. They made a commitment to do 12% of their bank branches at SunTrust and 10% of their bank branches at First Tennessee to be Hope Inside branches, not because the mayor of Memphis just yesterday decided to meet, we haven't announced it yet, we're going to do citywide here in Memphis, Hope Inside, including inside of his employee base in the city. But the reason they're doing this is not for moral reasons or ethical reasons or racial reasons. They're doing this for common sense, basic business reasons, because the banker, and I'm going to give me 2 minutes and I'm done. The banker cannot tell you when you walk, first of all, you cannot ignite economic development in your region without a bank. You cannot. And here's the reality. Half of black folks have a credit score below 620. Not poor black people, I mean everybody, which means you're locked out of the free enterprise system. You can't get a small business loan. You can't become an entrepreneur. I don't care how, you can go to church every Sunday, be the nicest person on the planet, at a 580 credit score, you're not going to get an approval. So that means you walk in the front door of the bank, because they're afraid of getting sued for discrimination, will look at your credit score and go, and take your application, knowing full well they cannot approve you. And they'll take you all the way through the process, let you pay for the appraisal, and then let the credit bureaus give you the bad news. So now you have basically failure, and now nobody trusts the bank because the bank's in the no business, not in the yes business, and the banker cannot tell you, they knew from day one that you could not even take the application with hope to be approved. So what I'm doing is putting my employee 10 feet from the banker. My employee doesn't work for the bank. My employee looks at that same credit report and goes, girl, that credit report looks like a bus accident. Baby, what's that? I don't know. Fantastic. That's called an error. Can we challenge that with the credit bureaus? Yes. We send a letter to the credit bureaus. The law states if the credit bureaus cannot confirm that within 30 days, they must remove it. 98% of the times they remove it, credit score pops 40 points. If you're at 580, now where are you? 620. What happens to your self-esteem? Your confidence, your belief in the system, your trust in banking. The lights come on, the endorphins kick on the right side of your brain, and then they ask this critical question. After that win, what next? Hope returns. Once you say, what next? I've got you. We then say, well, what's that? By the way, somebody's sitting here saying, why is he talking about one person? I've got, 100,000 people in my city. I've got, 500,000 people in my county. Because those 500,000 people are 500,000 examples of what I'm talking about. Your city is made, the American economy is 70% consumer spending. 70% of that $20 trillion of GDP is people paying for car notes, coffee, going to the gas station. I mean, it's not complicated. So if you don't solve Mary Jones's problem, you can't solve any problem, which means you have a problem of your GDP. Back to the story. So what's that next item? I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, that was a charge off. I got divorced 10 years ago. I didn't pay the phone bill. Okay, you were in Oakland, California back then. That was SBC Communications. They sold the company to Pac Bell. Pac Bell sold the company to AT&T. AT&T chased you and couldn't get the money. They charged that off from $1,000, sold the bad debt for $50, 5 cents on the dollar. They sold it to Joe's Finance Company. Here's his number right there. We're going to call him. Joe's Finance Company, yep. I got Mary Jones here. I'm looking for her. She's looking for you. What do you want? We want $100. We're going to pay you $200. Why would you pay me double? Because when I pay you double, you're going to take this crap off her credit report, and you're going to treat her like an honored citizen, and your reporter is paid as agreed, right? And when I call you back in 3 months because it showed up again, you're going to take it off again. Write a letter for it, going to make you look like a hero to your boss. You're going to get a 200% profit on this bad debt. And it's a great deal. She got 80% off. He got a 200% profit. Fair exchange is no robbery. Credit score goes up 30 points. Now where is she? 650. She's within striking distance. Now we work with her on her budget. We get her the earned income tax credit. If anybody here doesn't know what EITC is, I just gave you a gift for your city or your county. 1 out of 4 Americans who qualify for EITC never asked for it. Anybody here don't know what EITC is? Earned income tax credit. So if you make less than $53,000 a year, which is probably what most of your counties on the average income, am I talking to myself? $53,000. So if you make $35,000 a year, has 2 children, the government owes you $4,000 cash. Imagine how many people in your family are owed a check. And by the way, it's retroactive for 3 years. So if somebody's owed $4,000, they're owed 12 grand. Imagine 12 grand being reinjected in your region in consumer spending or investment. Back to the story. So we get that, take it off, 650 credit score. We get her EITC up. Anyway, in this example, he walked her back to the bank. She got a 4% mortgage with First Tennessee, became a homeowner in Memphis, Tennessee. Her credit score was just under 700. She then took that EITC because she was found money. She didn't hire the guy on her block who would have robbed her otherwise, hired the guy to go to paint her home, took that money to Home Depot for the paint, also paid for some landscaping, got some plumbing work done. What did that do to GDP? See? So now you have a voter. You got a taxpayer. You got a stakeholder. You got a stable family. You have America again. I love you.